Ooh, very fancy.
Welcome to MsMojo. For every year the time goes forward, we are lucky to get new windows into days gone by. Period TV shows run the gamut in tone and approach, giving us endless ways to revisit some version of the past. Today we're looking at 10 of the most interesting destinations from 2025's TV time machine. For this list, we're going to be keeping our focus on English language productions. There may be no spoilers in history, but there are on TV, so we'll try not to give too much away.
Very well. I'll stay. But only for a moment.
Robin Hood.
Loxley. How is the King's Forest?
Flourishing, my lord.
Yep, it was about time for another lap through Sherwood Forest. As one of the most adapted stories in the Western canon, each retelling of this classic outlaw tale is tasked with bringing something new to the table. Rarely is it historical accuracy, and MGM Plus's Robin Hood is no exception.
Loxley Manor is my ancestral home. Its lands were granted to my father's father by King Harold himself.
A Saxon king who lost your lands when he lost England to my father's uncle, William the Conqueror. Your lands have not been yours since that day.
Just as your gods have not been yours since Christ followed the Normans here.
There are some deliberate departures here that purists might not appreciate, but the power of the legend is in its themes, and this series does engage with some of the more radical ideas buried in the original narrative in a way that feels very current. It also attempts to build out the world around Robin Hood and his merry men to give us a fuller understanding of the circumstances that inform the ideology. Add in some interesting new characters and a solid antagonist turn from Sean Bean, and you've got one of the better Robin Hood attempts in recent memory.
Your mother and father will be watching.
I'll make them proud.
The Forsytes. Looking for a mashup of the Gilded Age and Downton Abbey with a splash of Bridgerton for good measure? The Forsytes has you covered.
You're dreaming.
Believe me, I'm not.
This most recent adaptation of John Galsworthy's sprawling intergenerational saga has all the bygone elegance, family drama, and slow-burning romance you could ask for. Starting in the 1870s, the series follows the exploits of the titular Forsytes as cousins Soames and Jolyon vie for control of the family business. But it's the relationships that provide the real meat of this show.
Forgive me. I'm well-schooled in matters of business. Less so in matters of the heart. Which, to be frank, has never been touched by a single soul until...
There's a real sense of intimacy to this series that brings viewers inside of the story, where the interpersonal dynamics are always more complicated than they seem. Though the pacing can run a little uneven, the amount of yearning on screen will keep you yearning to see what happens next.
If only I was the ruling type.
You are, my love.
Sherlock and Daughter.
Listen and learn so that your long trip is not entirely wasted, and one day you may be able to tell your children that you studied with the great Sherlock Holmes. Now, the first principle of deduction
is that each possibility must be considered and eliminated. The last to remain, no matter how improbable, is the truth.
So you have read Watson's sentimental little story.
David Thewlis is no stranger to bringing literary characters to the screen, while we impatiently await his return as Fagin in the forthcoming Season 2 of The Artful Dodger. 2025 saw him change sides of the law and take up the mantle of Britain's most famous detective, Sherlock Holmes. Rather than his trusty sidekick Watson, though, this series introduces a whole new dynamic when the American Amelia Rojas shows up claiming to be his daughter. Not that Sherlock believes her at first.
I do find myself in need of an assistant. And from what I have seen on your first day in my employ, you are a passable artist, an eager and intelligent pupil with a surprisingly good open-handed slap.
While these two sort out the nature of their relationship, we follow them through a riveting murder investigation and into the web of a larger conspiracy. Ably mixing melodrama with adventure and mystery, Sherlock and Daughter offers a fresh and entertaining dimension on a classic character, with plenty of potential for future growth.
A very impressive balancing act. Hardly surprising, given that both your parents were virtuosos of the theatrical arts. Indeed, were I not a genius, I might well have become an actor.
Miss Austen. When the real Cassandra Austen destroyed many of her late sister Jane's old letters, she turned the celebrated author into an enigma whose inner life would entice imaginations for centuries to come. Miss Austen is the most recent project to attempt to fill in the gaps in the historical record.
What of my own feelings? What of those?
Oh, they are your sisters. There is no closer bond. For this, you should be grateful.
Here, we join Cassandra as she attempts to find Jane's letters. Through flashbacks, we experience the lives of the Austen family and their circle, witnessing the close and enduring relationship between the two sisters through all their ups and downs.
That little desk is just sitting there waiting for you to use it. All those manuscripts you've been carrying around for so long could finally come out of hiding.
It's all pure speculation, of course, but the emotional, thoughtful writing of the series, anchored by an excellent Keeley Hawes as Cassandra, helps shade in the world Jane Austen drew from, adding a subtle perspective we feel the writer herself would appreciate.
Our history will be safe in our memories. All we can do is pass them on to those who come after us, with as much honesty as we can muster.
As if anyone is interested in us women.
American Primeval. If it's a feel-good watch you're after, you might want to keep on riding to the next outpost. This Western gets down into the muck of American history in more ways than one.
There's war brewing in this territory. Brigham Young trying to make his kingdom. President Buchanan sending in troops trying to stomp it out.
Set during the 1850s in a little-examined chapter in U.S. history, American Primeval doesn't shy away from the brutality of the much-mythologized Old West. But its varied cast of characters become a set of compelling lenses used to examine the violent struggle for freedom and domination at the heart of westward expansion.
Your god tells you to kill the whites. Whites believe their god tells them to kill you. Perhaps the gods are playing a game with all of us to see who can kill the most.
The details of the Utah War are more fictionalized than not. However, the inclusion of small, historically accurate details gives insight into complicated and deeply flawed figures who, for better or worse, shaped the course of American history. It is not an easy watch, but it is a pretty gripping one.
I just wanted to tell you.
I appreciate the thought, Mr. Reed, but I don't require pity. That would make me as weak as those men thought I was. And we saw what happened to them.
Dope Girls. Both stylish and sharp-edged, Dope Girls is an enthralling look at female independence, survival, and self-determination.
I saw how much that place was making last night, and it was a cesspit. Don't you think we could do it better?
In London's Soho nightclub scene in 1918, the show tells the story of several women struggling to contend with a post-World War I world keen to strip away the liberties they gained while the men were away. And whether the demons are external or internal, the question always remains: how far will you go to succeed?
You're impressive, Davis. Whew. Give you that. Got yourself deep into the rat's nest. But I know you want more.
The excess and hedonism of the nightlife is alive in the vivid, sometimes surreal visual style of the show. However, impressively, the aesthetics aren't allowed to overwhelm the deeper thematic currents that give the series its real heft. Both gritty and dreamlike, and populated with a cast of truly engrossing characters, Dope Girls feels like a unique offering in the period drama space, and a highly addictive one at that.
You see, I believe pleasure is like water. We need it to survive. So no, I won't be closing anytime soon.
1,000 Blows. What do you get when you mix bare-knuckle boxing with the most notorious female thieves to strike fear into the hearts of London shop managers? You get great TV, as it turns out.
Apologies, madame. But my friend Hezekiah has a way of attracting trouble.
Here, champion boxer Sugar Goodson tries to hold on to his empire, while newly arrived Jamaican immigrant Hezekiah Moscow attempts to break into the scene. Meanwhile, Mary Carr, head of the 40 Elephants gang, looks to take her girls to another level of success with a risky heist.
What did Jane want?
To tell me I'll fail.
The Chinese job.
which only makes me more determined.
All their stories converge and intersect in the rough streets of London's East End, with a dozen equally interesting subplots in the periphery just begging for more spotlight. Every character is layered and complex, and every performance is a knockout. We can only hope to see the 40 Blows returning for a second round soon.
Women in my line of work, they sit at the table with men, making decisions. And you take your fighting to the next level. You chase all your dreams. All you need to do is win.
Outlander, Blood of My Blood.
Quite what I imagined our holiday to be like.
Well, you said you wanted an adventure.
Given the runaway success of Outlander, the only question here is why it took so long for Starz to spin another series off from a property with so much narrative potential to mine. This prequel takes its audience back in time in multiple senses to meet the generations preceding Claire and Jamie.
Ellen.
I'm Brian.
Do you have a surname, Brian?
I do. Of course I do, but you haven't told me yours.
Ellen Mackenzie. Of Leo.
For fans who felt they never had enough time in the Highlands, Blood of My Blood is a welcome return, enriching both the setting and backstories of the characters. Whether they be familiar names or new introductions, the politics and passions of the Mackenzies and their contemporaries prove to be irresistible in any generation. Meanwhile, the time-traveling plotline of Claire's parents adds even more depth to the connection our original heroine shares with Jamie. It doesn't hurt that the casting couldn't be more spot on.
Didn't care if it's fate. Divine intervention that brought us together. If I had to bargain with the devil himself, to spend a moment more with you, I would.
Outrageous. Set in the 1930s, this series, narrated by a fictionalized version of novelist Nancy Mitford, follows a tight-knit family of British aristocrats as they're fractured by their diverging political beliefs.
It's a long story, but this was the day that I first noticed something was amiss. Although I was the eldest, you can't blame me for the rot setting in. Lord, no. It was definitely my sister Diana who started the ball rolling.
Diana and Unity Mitford both get cozy with Adolf Hitler. Nancy tries to raise anti-fascist awareness with her writing, and Jessica is dying to chuck her privilege and join the communist fight. And you thought your family holiday dinners got awkward.
We are all entitled to our own views, to be ourselves. Now, if you'll excuse me, but that's it since you met Mosley. You're not yourself at all. You've changed completely. You think you know me better than I know myself. Well, you don't!
Incredibly, that's not even half of the drama that the Mitford family got up to historically. Outrageous tells their story with a relatable and canny tone that shifts gradually more serious as the narrative unfolds. Most of all, the human scale of the story succeeds in making these fascinating figures feel present and relevant to a modern viewer.
What if, one day, we're on opposite sides of the barricades? For real. Well, we'll just have to fight for what we believe in, won't we?
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Death by lightning. Being the victim of a presidential assassination is the kind of thing that turns a man into a larger-than-life legend. Except that wasn't really the case for James Garfield, who has mostly faded from the popular consciousness.
Do you think my name will have some place in human history?
Yes, a grand one.
The miniseries Death by Lightning seeks to dig into a forgotten chapter of history and the two men at the center of it. Garfield is a decent man and a reluctant president trying to survive the viper pit of US politics. His eventual assailant, Charles Guiteau, ambitious as he is delusional, is his own worst enemy long before he's Garfield's.
You're the gentleman that threw the paperweight.
No, that doesn't sound quite right. I'm sure I'd recall. Well, that was clearly a throw performed by a right-handed man, and I am a lefty.
Featuring a stacked cast of note-perfect performers, Death by Lightning manages to walk a tightrope between absurd and profound, between optimism and despair, deftly handling its layered themes with nuance and clever humor. And the results are, well, electrifying.
It's yours, Congressman. You didn't ask me if I wanted it. Everyone wants it.
Which show was the most transportative for you this year? Let us know in the comment section.